Faith plays a fundamental role in our existence, in our lives, but we have to be very careful with faith, because there is fake faith, and today we are going to learn a little about that and the danger of it too. So if you're new here, feel free, leave your like to strengthen it, so that this video is delivered to more people. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new messages. And feel free, listen carefully and stay until the end so that you are blessed by this message. In the second letter of the Apostle Paul to Timothy, in chapter 1, Paul says this in verse 4, "I remember your tears and I long to see you, so that I can fill my heart with joy again. In the same way, I remember your unfeigned faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lloyd and your mother Onesi. And I am convinced that it also dwells in you." Look, Paul is talking about unfeigned faith. Genuine and true faith, the same as Timothy had. But what is fake faith? It is one that hides, it is a false faith. Like this? It is the one that hides in the midst of problems, in the midst of struggles, in the midst of situations. Unfeigned faith is the one that no matter the situation, she overcomes everything, she faces it, she passes without fear. A person who has a feigned faith is a person who gives up easily, a person who backs down, a person who doesn't insist, a person who abandons everything after the first attempt. This is a fake faith. Now an unfeigned faith, a true faith, is the one who, no matter the size of the problem, the wall, the giant, she faces it, she rises above it, she overcomes everything that stands up against her. And this is the faith that Timothy had. We need to understand that faith is a gift, it is a gift from God to us. And if we don't watch our faith, it falls asleep within us. When you don't use your faith, it falls asleep. Why? When God gave us faith, He gave it to us with a measure. Everyone has a measure of faith. Some have a much larger measurement. Why? Because they use this faith, improving, strengthening, winning bigger and bigger battles, and this person's faith today is huge. Faith has measure. Others have the measurement way down. Why? Because they're not watching. Because they are not using faith. And she falls asleep. And getting smaller and smaller until it becomes a feigned faith. But the person will not say that they have a fake faith. She will speak freely. I have faith, but her life doesn't change, it doesn't move forward, it isn't transformed. Why? Because it is a fake faith. God spoke in Isaiah 41, in verse 10, "Do not be afraid." But there are people who live in fear of everything. She is afraid of everything. She is afraid of death, she is afraid of divorce, she is afraid of the future, afraid of losing, afraid of a cause, of a trauma, afraid of loneliness, of being alone, of being abandoned. There are people she is afraid of everything. And then I ask, where is the faith? Many times he is pretending, he is sleeping. And you cannot, my brother, let your faith fall asleep. Your faith plays a fundamental role in your life, in the transformations of your life. If your faith is not growing, you will have struggles that will stop you. There will be obstacles that will paralyze you. And that cannot happen. Do you know how many times the Bible says fear not? 365 times the Bible says do not be afraid, that is, do not be afraid. When faced with a situation, feeling fear happens. A sensation, feeling, him knocking on the door. From heart. Now, we cannot be afraid of that. Because when we talk about having, it is something that is within us, it is something of ours. So, fear does not have to be part of your life, but a genuine and true faith. Because, God said, we don't. Look how many times, God said. 365 times. In other words, my brother, if you want, you have a verse for each day of the year, where God will tell you not to be afraid. So why are you afraid? So why would you let the enemy trap you? Does the enemy make you stand in a circle in fear? Does your faith fall asleep? No, my brother, you can't let that happen. When we have the spirit of fortitude, we are not afraid. God called us to be part of his army. In other words, giant problems will arise. The army is not for sleeping. The army is not meant to be calm, the army is meant to fight. Have you ever seen an army being formed to stand still? No, my brother. Armies are formed for war, for fight, for battle. God called us to his army, that is, to fight. What if you don't have your faith up to date, your faith revived, increasing the measure of faith more and more? And do you know how our faith increases? As we go through the problems. As we go through situations, facing them, all fear overcomes. Fear knocking on the door of your heart is normal. If you let him in, that's another story. You can't leave that. Fear, they are phobias that we build within ourselves and start to take over our lives. So, if you let fear in, it puts your faith to sleep and it starts to take over your life. Don't let fear enter. Don't be afraid of anything, my brother. Don't be afraid of anything, because if you overcome this fear, you can be sure that nothing will be able to stop you. Nothing and no one will be able to stop you. It's like the habit of anxiety. It attacks reason and emotion, the heart and mind. But why? Because the person is letting it in. Now when a person lets go of all fear, anxiety comes out, faith is lifted, my brother, there's nothing that won't happen. Faith moves mountains, but it really moves. When you have unshakable faith, my brother, there is nothing you cannot do. There is no one and nothing that can stop you, because your faith is alive. So look at the importance that faith has within us. Faith is incredibly important. There are a lot of giants that beat us from the inside because we still don't understand that. Because we are still dominated by fear. You have to identify what fear is dominating you. You know. Do some self-reflection and you will identify the giant called fear that is inside you. Overcoming you, guiding you, leading you, dominating your life. My brother, how many family giants don't believe we won't work? How many? How many? But the more you run away from the giant, the bigger it gets in your life and it will get harder and harder to beat it. Those people, that army of Israel had been facing Goliath for days, and the more time passed, the more fear grew within them. Now if the first moment they saw the giant appear, they already ran towards him, my brother, they would destroy Goliath. They would destroy Goliath and the Philistines on the first day. But what happened? The first passed, the second passed, the third, the 10th, the 20th, and as more time passed, the more Goliath grew before them. Goliaths were already giants. The longer they stayed there in fear, the more this fear increased and the more it looked like Goliath. That's why, my brother, you have to face this fear soon. Because if you leave it inside you, your faith is falling asleep and fear is growing. But it has to be the opposite. It has to be the fear diminishing and going away and your faith reviving, increasing. That's how you have to understand. Did the problem arise? Stop leaving it for later. Did the problem arise? Stop putting it off until tomorrow. No, face it now, face it today. Why? Because the longer you keep putting it off, the harder it will be to win. It's like a person who knows they have to do something, but they keep putting it off for later, they keep putting it off until tomorrow. When you do it, it will seem more difficult, it will seem more complicated. Now if she does it soon, it's over. It already gets that problem out of the way. Ready. There is no longer that worry. So my brother, when fear knocks on the door of your heart, understand, knocking on the door is normal. You let him in, right? And if you let fear in, he will make your faith fall asleep. Just like the faith of the people of Israel, the army of Israel fell asleep. Fear took over. They trembled before Goliath. But the one who, as soon as he saw it, look how, my God in heaven, as soon as David saw Goliath, he heard him speak. At that moment he was already indignant. At that time he was already revolted. 1 minute. Who is this uncircumcised man who is confronting the army of the living God? Wait, I'll solve this now. It was at the same time that he realized that Goliath was there, that he wanted to go for it. He didn't want to waste time, because he knew that if he stayed there looking at Goliath, just from afar, like a lot of people are doing, leaving the problem there, leaving the fear there, the fear will enter, faith will falling asleep, and soon the person is losing all the fights in their life. Her life is a failure. Why? Because she is letting fear in. Because she's letting fear take over her. No. As soon as David saw Goliath, he said, "Wait, what is this guy saying about my God? From the army of the living God. No, wait, I'll solve this now." He didn't want to know how big Goliath was. He didn't want to know how strong Goliath was, how many men Goliath had already defeated. No. He wasn't worried about that, my brother. He only knew one thing. If I let fear in, I will lose. Now, if I face it soon, face it once and for all. With the living faith that is within me, my God is with me, it is over. I will take down this giant. And this is what happened. So my brother, stop letting fear take over your life. Stop letting fear take over you. And it doesn't matter what the fear is. Whether it's a small thing or a big thing. Take it off, overcome fear. And face that fear head on. You'll see that after you beat him once, it's over. Your faith is alive, fear goes away. Your life is blessed, there will be nothing that will stop you, there will be nothing that will stop you from being victorious. If you understand that your faith cannot be faked. And when does faith become fake? When she falls asleep. And why does she fall asleep? Because the person lets fear in. But the Bible says it more than 360 times, fear not. God is telling you not to be afraid, stop being afraid, stop letting fear numb your faith, stop having a fake faith, my brother. Overcome this fear soon, revive your faith, that I have great things and great victories for your life. This, my brother, is the Lord's message to us. If you have any fear in your life, the time has come for that fear to retreat. Because your faith cannot fall asleep. Your faith cannot be a fake faith. Just as Timothy didn't have a fake faith, David didn't have a fake faith, Paul didn't have a fake faith, neither will you have a fake faith. But a revived faith. That empowers you and prepares you to win any battle. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You really want to grow, you really want to learn the true gospel. Leave a comment saying you made it to the end, saying I won't lose to fear. Put this comment there, I won't lose to fear. You can be sure that from today onwards, any fear that existed in your life will fall to the ground and your faith will be revived. If before your faith was dormant, fake, now your faith is revived and you will experience great things in your life. God bless you.